1 in 4 Americans are affected by mental illness at any given time. So 25% of the people watching this video are the ones that are affected. And these are people living in our communities. These are our brothers, our sisters. So 1 in 4 Americans are living with some type of mental illness, and that means their family members, their friends, their colleagues, their coworkers are also affected by mental illness.
I was diagnosed 35 years ago. I was born into a family that had serious mental illness, schizophrenia, going back 3 generations on my mom's side, and addictive tendencies and personality traits on my dad's. I knew as a very young child that I wasn't quite normal, but I never really understood how affected my life would become ultimately due to my own mental illness. It wasn't until I found Nami that my life was saved. Nami literally saved my life.
Initially, I found Nami as a resource specifically for my family, and it ended up being a resource to bring my family together. Our family dynamic as a kid growing up, my parents were divorced, and all of a sudden my brother had this problem with his brain, and it was completely intangible. And my mom, being a nurse, knew something was up. You had a feeling, I think, as a mom and a professional. And my dad really was in denial. You know, that's not my son, and that's not something we're dealing with. Very much that shame of mental illness. And to see it dissipate because of my brother and having that excuse in our family to have to talk about it was probably a blessing in disguise, because it not only got us to talk about it, but it's now getting us to accept it.
My journey started when Michael basically graduated from college, and I knew there was something going on. I didn't know what. And being a professional, I should have thought or had some kind of recognition, but I didn't. It was my son. And we went through a lot of issues. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I had to scramble to find, go through my textbook and find out what's schizophrenia. And Nami saved my life. It was basically where I got my education, resources, support. They helped me to realize what schizophrenia was, how I could help Michael, how I could help myself, and how I could help my family. And without them, I don't know what I would do.
When Nami touches a life, in other words, mine, it has a ripple effect, and it has a ripple effect to everyone that I touch too. And it's not just the individual, it spreads out in the community in unseen and unknown ways. On a cold, rainy Saturday, homeless, sleeping on someone's couch at my end of my rope. And it wasn't until I was desperate and they were there. And it was the first relief I've had in probably 35 years.
When Michael was diagnosed, I felt like I was the only person that had this issue. And when I learned about Nami and got educated and went to a support group and heard other people's stories, it was like, oh, well, they went through this too. Maybe I'm not the only one. There is hope.
Nami's given me purpose. Nami's given me a reason to be and a reason to use my experiences that were tragic in my life, but to actually use them not only to continue to empower me in growing and in my own recovery, but sharing my story so that others don't have to go through some of the same things I did. Because there are now answers, there are now different things that didn't exist when I was really, really struggling.
There is hope. There is hope with Nami. There is hope with education, with life. But there is hope for issues with mental illness.
I really wish that there was a Nami 25 years ago, 30 years ago for me. That part I always see that, and I think about from time to time what tragic loss I had in my life over and over again due to unmanaged and not being in recovery. And I'm so happy to be able to go out there and share and see in the audience people get it. Not get my story per se, but it hits home and they're resonating. They're like, yeah, that's me. Or I'm so glad that I'm hearing this because now I can do something about it. So I see that when I'm out there speaking, and it's very gratifying and it's a blessing. I just wish there had been this intervention, in not only for me, but for my mom and for my grandma and all. So just, Nami does wonderful things. I can't say enough.